Hello and welcome to the Knowles Development Podcast, and we've got a great guest here today. Melissa Nickerson-Pratt is joining us for a conversation about integrity and how integrity is not a part-time job. It's not a on and off switch. And Melissa and I get to work together in Knowles Development, but also in the world of Keller Williams. So I'd love to just hear a little bit of your KW story. Introduce yourself to the gang, if you would.
So, as Brad said, my name is Melissa Nickerson-Pratt. I'm the Director of Operations currently for the Hatcher Group at Keller Williams here in Portland, Maine. I started originally 18 years ago at KW, working for our Market Centers owner group, running their team. Then I joined the staff and worked on staff for about 4.5 years, and now I have been with John and his team for about 8 years.
Yeah, great.
And been coaching with Brad and Knowles Development now for 2 years?
Yeah, a couple of years now.
A couple of years.
Yeah, great. And we find it's a great partnership because I find I'm useless in helping people who really have operationals and systems at the core of what they do, and you're just an absolute expert at it. So,
Thank you.
But one of the things we're going to talk about here today is really this integrity conversation. And to me, integrity kind of breaks down into two buckets.
Mm-hmm.
And one is just honesty, and the other is kind of this moral principles. And I figure, well, let's leave the moral principles for the second half. I find that's a little more nebulous, a little harder to dip our teeth into. But let's have a conversation about honesty.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the honesty conversation is really just being sincere.
Yes.
It's about being sincere and transparent and in the conversation we're having today it's not in just some things.
Correct.
It's in all things.
All things. Yeah.
So how do you see that showing up? Let's pick on the team, for example. Where do you see great evidence of that integrity, specifically that honesty piece?
I think just being transparent and honest with the team, letting them know what's going on, when we're having, changes or issues, just keeping everybody in the loop so they know what's going on, so they don't feel, like something's happening behind their back and, oh my goodness, what's going on? So they really know, what's happening.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's so funny. Just as you were saying that, I remember somebody coming up to me at an event. I used to work with them in a previous office, and they came up to me, and this is now several years after I'd left the office, and they did one of these to me. They did all right, now tell me what really happened. Right? That was the start of the conversation. Hadn't seen the person in probably over a year, and there was nothing to tell.
Right.
Like, you understand, like, everything was communicated. There's no deep underbelly. There's no bodies in the closet. There's no, right?
Exactly.
It's, communicate what's going on.
Communicate what's going on.
Yeah.
Keep everybody, so they know.
Yeah.
And they don't have that feeling of like, oh, yeah, what's going on.
Right. I also think I've been blessed to sit in on your guys' team meetings over the years at the Hatcher Group. And one of the great things that you have tracked for a long time is the numbers of the group.
Correct.
And when I think about honesty, I think about that interrogating reality, right? Let's not lie to each other or to ourselves about where we are. Right?
Yep.
So how long have you guys been tracking the numbers? What does that look like now for the team? Because it's been a little bit since I sat in with you.
Right. I've been tracking the numbers ever since I started with the team.
So 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
And, it just helps the individuals know where they're at.
Yeah.
And also where we're at compared to where we want to be.
Right.
And who needs, to step up. Do they need help? What's going on? If they need, assistance, if they just, whatever.
Yeah, do you find that helps people not suffer in silence? When you're having that open of a dialogue and a transparent tracking of numbers?
Yes. So everybody else can see what everyone else is doing as well. So if they're feeling like they're doing as much as they can, but then one of the other people on the team is doing a lot more, it's like, what can I do to make that same level of success?
Right.
What are they doing that I'm not?
Right. And to me, that's just so powerful. Part of any team is that the leaders within the team are helping to pass on that knowledge, those skills, those habits to pull up the other members of the team. And so I think that's a wonderful thing. Last thing on honesty, doing what you said you would do. To me, from a coaching perspective,
yes,
like that kind of sums it up.
I mean, that's key. If one of the members of the team call me and say I'm having an issue with, maybe one of our systems, to not just say, yeah, that's the way it is, but
Right.
to really dig into it and find the answer and then actually get back to them with the
Right.
answer to let them know.
Right.
Or if I can't figure out the answer, say, I need to, look into it further, just so that they know that they have been heard and
Yeah.
it's getting taken care of.
Yeah. I also know from a leadership side, one of the things I try to stress with people is I expect mistakes to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I expect us to fall short on our goals sometimes, right? It's, if we're always hitting our goals, that means we set the bar too low, right? There needs to be a stretch aspect to this. But there shouldn't be a need for surprises.
Mm-hmm. And
to me, when I experience a surprise, that feels like a moment of dishonesty, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think of an agent on a team who had a goal for the month and they come to the meeting and they missed it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at some point in the last 30 days, don't you think they realized they probably weren't going to make it, or they were at a risk of not making it, right? And yet they didn't communicate it.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is that sincerity piece.
Right.
It's like, be transparent.
Right, be honest. Like,
yeah.
we had one of our team members was nervous about COVID, so took themselves off of lead rotation.
Sure.
And so they were fine with it, so they knew, and so we readjusted their goal
Yep.
to take that into account. And
Yep.
that was fine because they were honest,
Yep.
and said, I'm kind of uncomfortable right now with everything that's going on.
Right.
And so I want to step back.
Yeah.
So they were honest. We could adjust the goal and help them meet the new goal that they set.
Such a great example because the person was proactive. It sounds like they were proactive about it. It sounds like they were not only understanding what the impact was going to be on the team, but also their own personal finances. And they were willing to accept those consequences of it.
Right.
They're trying to make this tough decision, as we all went through there for a while.
Yeah.
And deciding what trades they're going to make. And
Yeah.
I mean, that level of proactive conversation to me is really at the heart of this honesty piece of integrity, right? The like, hey, I think I've got a problem, not waiting to be discovered, but proactively, offering it up transparently, and really having the entire conversation. So let's get into this one that might be a little bit muddier, a little bit harder to put our finger on, because I think most of us understand when we're being treated honestly, and I think most of us understand when we're being fully transparent and honest with other people. The moral principles piece of integrity, because it's not just honesty, it's these moral principles. And one of them to me is a mutual respect piece, right? That we are going to treat each other fairly, and that being an underpinning of integrity. Yeah. You've got a lot of people you work with on the team, you've got people that you coach. How does that show up for you?
I think it's the golden rule, or now they call it the platinum
rule.
Right. That treat people how they want to be treated.
Yeah.
And be honest with me, and I'll be honest with you. And just step up and, like you said, do what you say you're going to do. Right.
And I do think that the golden rule is tough to trump to some extent, in that if you think about treating other people, the original way that it's written is treat other people the way that you would like to be treated, right? And I think the piece that the golden rule tries to say, which I would argue the original version probably included, which is, well, take the time to figure that out.
Yeah.
Take the time to figure that out for the other person. How would you like to be treated? How do you want to be communicated with?
Right.
Because I've got to figure you've got members of your team that want to be communicated with in different ways than other members of the team.
Exactly.
Can you give me a couple of real examples of that?
Yeah. I have some people that are high eyes.
Right.
So I know, that's the influencer, the bubbly, the outgoing. if I'm going to get into a conversation with them,
Right.
you know, I have to be patient and know it's going to be a while.
Right.
And we have to get through some of the personal stuff
Sure.
and the story and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then we have other people that are the more direct. And it's like, I will speak to you in bullet points and
Right.
just get it done. Or,
Right.
you know, the people that are like more stable, they want to know the why. Like, why are we doing this? You know,
Yeah.
they just won't take it at face value. So having
Right.
to, you know everybody on the team and how they like to be treated and communicated with is really a big part of it.
So I want to challenge each of you who are listening to this on the mutual respect front, that taking time to really get to understand the makeup of the person that you're dealing with is one of the things that's going to help have integrity in that relationship. So yeah, a high D personality type, if we look at the DISC profile, high D personality type, not only can I expect that they're going to talk to me in bullet points, but they would prefer that I did the same back. Right? So in a leadership way, that's actually a great way to build integrity. A great way to build trust is to communicate with people how they would like to be communicated. And to me, it really comes down to this care and candor, right? This balancing act between the honesty piece, right? I'm going to be honest with you, right? But also this caring piece of, I'm not going to do it in a brutal way. I'm not going to do it in an abusive way. I'm going to do it because I care about you. How do you see, and I know this is a little nebulous, but how do you see caring live out in your team?
I think sometimes, you know, it's the candor piece. It's like, I care about you and I care about your success, so we need to course correct here.
Right.
You know, it's like, you can't keep doing that. You can't keep coming in late. You can't keep not telling me what you're doing.
Right.
If you want to be successful and be part of this team and have us on the operation side be able to help you.
Right.
You know, and take all this stuff off your plate. You have to tell us, you know, what you need. And
Right.
so caring enough about them to have that conversation.
Right. It's so funny that without the caring, oftentimes the candor doesn't even show up. Because if I don't care about you, why would I even have that challenging conversation?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Off with you.
Yeah, get out of here. I'm sick of you. You're dead to me, right? But instead, it's no, because I care about you. That's what you said. Because I care about you, I want to have this transparent conversation. I want to help you with the course correction, right? Treating people fairly. I mean, that's another piece in this mutual respect thing, right? Now, I'm going to challenge you here on the spot. The rainmaker on your team, 35 years in the business. How long is the newest agent on your team? How long have they been in the business?
We have one that's not licensed yet.
Not even licensed yet. I love it.
Who will be officially joining once he gets his main license. So
beautiful. So talk about running the full spectrum there. I mean, 35 years in an industry and just about to start. How do you see the team treating them fairly? In other words, treating them the same.
That's an interesting concept. Treating them the same is not necessarily treating them
fairly.
Fairly.
Good catch. Right. So talk to us about treating each other fairly.
I think fairly is giving them what they need. You know, because obviously our newest agent needs a lot more hand-holding, a lot more accountability, a lot more training, support than our rainmaker, who's been, well, he still needs a lot of support, but he doesn't need it in the same way that she does.
It's different. Right.
It's, you know, and recognizing that difference. Just like
I so love that. I so love that.
Right.
And it all starts with what they need.
Correct.
So treating them fairly really is about taking the time to do that. You know, and what I loved, serious, an aha for me was, the person who's brand new may actually need more. Right? That's kind of counterintuitive. Right? You'd think the person, they're 35 years in the business, they own the business, all of our attention is going to go there, you know, high king on the mount kind of a thing. And the reality is like, no. Right. We might put a disproportionate amount of time into the newest member of the team.
Right. We want to get them up and running and successful.
Right.
You know, as quickly as we can.
Yeah.
You know, so they'll feel good about being on the team.
Right. And to me, I think that's a real important takeaway, I think, for everybody here is understanding that if we take the time to really understand what it is that they need and then actually deliver on that, we will be living out these moral principles.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. The fact that I'm going to treat people fairly, I'm going to treat them with respect, I'm going to treat, right? Those are moral principles that I would argue doesn't matter your culture, doesn't matter your religion, doesn't matter your upbringing. We all agree that that is a way that we should treat each other. And then you overlay that with this honesty, right? And we're going to have that in all of the things that we do. And again, what I love about your position with the team is you're almost a keeper of the honesty when it comes to the numbers and the tracking and all that kind of stuff. Like, here's where we are.
Right. The numbers don't lie.
They don't lie. Right.
Yep.
Which is why it's so important that when we talk about goal setting, things like that, Melissa and I do that with people all the time as coaches. When we're talking about goal setting, that's why we want people to pick specific goals. Because if there's specific goals that can be tracked with numbers, then we will always know where we're at.
Right. Take the emotion out of it. It's like you either did it or you didn't.
You did it or you didn't. Right. Last year was a big year for you guys, I remember. And there was a part of the year where it was like, hey, we're doing good, not great. And then, you know, what was the goal for last year and where did you end?
Goal for last year was 65 million and we ended up at 76.
65 and you ended up at 76. And that was with the whole rollout of COVID and lockdowns and all of that kind of stuff, right? And to me, knowing your numbers like that, you should know January 15th whether you're on track or not. And really, that's the last place I want to go with this integrity conversation is that honest conversation with ourselves. Right? That being honest with ourselves, where are we at? What did we commit to doing? And are we on track with it or not? And if not, what do we need to do different? What do we need to do different to get back on track?
You know, that was one thing last year with the whole COVID. It's like, are we really going to be able to even meet our goal? So we all, you know, on the leadership decided, no, we're not going to change our goal. We're going to keep going for it. And we blew it away. So that's
so awesome. That's so awesome. Melissa, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. I really appreciated our conversation.
Thank you.
I hope you got something out of this. I hope that this was a conversation for you to help better understand, well, what does it really mean to be a person of integrity? What does it mean to have it show up in kind of different areas of my business, that it's not in just one area, but in all areas? And I really hope that maybe it exposed a couple of things that you could be doing better, especially as a leader. I want to challenge you, take a moment right now and just be honest with yourself. Have an integrity conversation with yourself and expose maybe one area where you could improve in this. A little more honesty, treating people a little more fairly, maybe delivering a little more caring before you hit people with the candor, right? We talked about this before, and we'll wrap up on this. Candor without caring can be abusive. Caring without candor can be enabling. It really is a balancing act of the two, and when you layer integrity on top of all of it, that's where the magic lives. Thanks so much for joining us on the Knowles Development Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.